9 years, 7 months, and 20 days after September 11, 2001, the U.S. military caught the financier and mastermind behind the terrorist attacks that shook a country and changed America forever. The death of Osama bin Laden marks the end of a 20-year search for the notorious terrorist. After watching the 24-hour news networks following his death, it seemed that many Americans believe his death was more symbolic than crucial to national security. While I doubt that killing him made this country safer, I take issue with calling his death symbolic. Symbolism connotes lack of importance. Osama bin Laden was responsible for the deaths of 3,000 Americans in New York City, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. If a mass murderer was caught in this country, no one would be calling it symbolism. It would be justice. That's exactly what Osama bin Laden's death was. He was brought to justice. Nothing can replace the lives of the people that were lost on 9/11. I had good friends who lost their parents that day. But hopefully the death of Osama bin Laden can bring some closure to a crime that had gone unpunished for nearly a decade. I know it seems barbaric to celebrate the death of another person, but personally in this case, I don't think it is. Since September 11th, we have lost over 4,000 of our men and women in uniform in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. There have been over 92,000 civilian deaths in Iraq and tens of thousands of civilian deaths in Afghanistan. Estimates say that the Iraq war will cost over $3 trillion and the Afghanistan war will have similar figures. September 11th drove our country and foreign policy towards these two wars. For too long, our country has put these conflicts in the backseat of our political discussion. Osama bin Laden's death has shifted the focus, at least temporarily, from domestic issues to foreign affairs, reminding many Americans that we are still at war. Why is Afghanistan the forgotten war? It is the longest war in U.S. history, spanning nearly a decade, and the largest focus of our U.S. military. The media have downplayed the war in recent years, and Americans have little knowledge of the death toll and financial costs. If the public were to see more coverage of the war, its overall cost, there would be a much different narrative in this country. Does September 11th justify the over 100,000 civilian deaths in these two countries? I understand that with every war there comes collateral damage, but that collateral damage should be more visible to the public. September 11th was a terrible day for this country, and I'm glad the face and financier of the operation has finally been killed. But hopefully this event will prompt more questions from the public about whether we should still be in Afghanistan. Are our efforts there keeping our country safe? When is it going to end? When will it be determined that Al-Qaeda has been defeated? When will the lives of the soldiers and innocent civilians be enough? How much money do we have to spend? There haven't been any successful terrorist strikes in this country since September 11th, but many have tried. There have been at least... You gotta go faster, man. You gotta give me like 3 lines at least. I'll start from how much money do we have to spend? How much money do we have to spend? There haven't been any successful terrorist strikes in this country since September 11th, but many have tried. There have been at least 21 foiled terrorist plots inside this country since 9/11. Terrorist activity hasn't stopped moving inside the United States, it has just been thwarted by the FBI and CIA. None of these attacks were prevented by the wars in Afghanistan or Iraq. If anything, they were only fueled by the two conflicts. Our military is the best on the planet, and they will do whatever it takes to keep our country safe. But they can't do it without proper leadership. Terrorism against the United States will never end, but the war in Afghanistan can. Many more innocent lives have been lost in the two wars than the attacks on 9/11. We went into Afghanistan to hold those responsible for 9/11 and keep our country safe. Haven't we done both? The Afghanistan government absolutely needs more help with developing their army and democratic process, but they don't need 100,000 troops to do this. Nearly $5 trillion have been spent on these two wars. Think about how much could have been done with $5 trillion in this country. We certainly wouldn't be discussing the elimination of Medicare. Our best defense against terrorist activities is intelligence, and we can do that properly without 100,000 boots on the ground in other countries. The death of Osama bin Laden is a win for this country, and the discussion about Afghanistan is one that is long overdue. That does it for me here at the Political Desk. My name is Twomey, and over to Mike with sports.